I'm curious what you mean when
Sorry.
you said assuming emotion from people that you have no business assuming from them.
Yeah,
What do you mean by that?
that's a great question. So sometimes, let's say you and I had an interaction. You walk away, it seems like we've resolved it, but I'm going to go away and be like, well, she could still feel this. And what if she feels that? And what if when I said that, she actually felt this? And dig myself into a hole of like, what ifs? Like, what if you actually didn't feel that way? Or what if you said things were fine, but they weren't? Um, or also just, let's say we resolved it and you're still a little like you might still be a little miffed. Like you can resolve something with somebody and you still feel a little and you just need a second to sit out your feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
But I would take that and disregard everything we just talked about and say because right in this moment she's not perfectly happy or she's not like perfectly calm, that means I need to feel that too. And it means that it didn't all get figured out, which I'm realizing is a control problem on my end because I want the situation to be okay. I
Mhm.
don't want people to be mad. I don't want to hurt people, but I'm placing a lot of emphasis on my role when the truth is that person just needs to get through their feelings and like that's okay. I don't have to involve myself all up in that. So I think I'm learning to separate like I'm going to go into this corner and deal with my emotions and they're going to go deal with their emotions, but I've set the boundary. I said what I had to say. They said what they had to say and it's done. And
Interesting.
I'm not good at it all the time, but I'm getting better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I asked that because I had this realization like a couple months ago
Yeah.
that I have a tendency to assume motive.
Ah.
Yeah. So like EJ's rolling his eyes because it's usually with him.
Sorry about that. Go ahead,
He's the
friend.
victim of my assumptions. um yeah, I assume motive. So for example, if he asks me a question, if I like instead of just answering the actual question that he's asking me, I'll respond with um an answer
Mhm.
that I think answers or solves the like motive or like the reason for why he's asking that question.
So
Does that make sense?
you get stuck in mind reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it sounds like you do it to start off and I do it at the end.
Yeah, no, for me it's like a
Like you
starting.
go in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like most of it's like unconscious, like I don't realize that I'm doing it. Like
Yeah.
I either catch myself in the moment or like he'll point it out or like I'll think about it after or something.
Mhm.
Usually it's just unintentional.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, it's like the thought process, if you will, that I'm not aware is happening is like, okay, he can't possibly just be asking me that question like at face value.
Okay.
So what is it that I think that he's actually trying to get at, you know? Or like the feelings that he must be feeling
Mhm.
to then ask me that question. And so that's what I end up trying to address is my assumptions there as
Okay.
opposed to yeah, just the actual question that he's asking. Mhm.
That's very
And I
interesting.
think that it's also kind of a control thing too,
Yes.
but based in like, let me like protect myself here. Like, let me put a wall up really quick
Yeah.
and like, you know, self preservation basically so that I can like try to, you know, control what's going on and like figure out the emotions and the whatever so that I'm good in this conversation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it is.
I see that. And I think it's interesting what you said, like it's a protective factor.
Yeah.
Because something that I've learned so much, I mean, yes, in my own life, but I think having the kind of that passenger seat view into so many people's lives when they come and tell me like their deep, dark stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I realize how much we set ourselves up for the worst thinking that it's going to protect us and how harmful that actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go into a situation, you're like, okay, if this bad thing happens, I'll do this. If this bad thing happens, I'll do that. If they're actually assuming this, well, no, I'm going to come in with this. And most of the time, what we prep for is not at all what's going to happen. But we end up hurting ourselves in the process or making that other person annoyed or uncomfortable or whatever it is. And it's so interesting that we have this very doomsday mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're always prepping for the other shoe to drop. It's like, why can't we just be happy?
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
I mean, I think I know for me in this specific like example,
Yes.
it does come from like not to like throw out like trendy words,
Okay.
but it is kind of like a trauma response kind of thing
Okay.
for me
Yes.
from like being, manipulated and
Mhm.
like stuff like that,
Yeah.
where like I had to do that,
Yes.
like I had to like let me walk on eggshells and like assess the situation and like assess the mood and like, you know, assume basically what this person is actually thinking and feeling because I can't trust the words that are coming out of their mouth.
Right.
And so for my protection and for self-preservation, I need to like read in between the lines and,
Mhm.
but like you said, it's not actually productive. And so it was self-preservation in those situations, but I no longer need to be like that. And so it does end up being a hindrance now with EJ. I have no reason to be like that anymore.
Yeah.
But because it's just like an ingrained thing, now I have to work on like catching it and not doing that
Unlearning
anymore.
is hard.
I feel like unlearning is harder than learning.
It is. It 1,000,000% is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand why though.
Because I feel like if you're learning something, you're kind of starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're unlearning, at least like in this kind of a situation, you're having to, how do I put this? Like there's a reason why you had to learn that in the first place. Like that behavior, that mindset. So now it's like you're having to learn how to stop doing that behavior or thought pattern or whatever it is. But you're also having to learn how to like just like function and like exist in a new setting or like situation,
I feel like that's like a callback to 2 episodes ago when you were talking about unlearning or
and like replacing a maladaptive behavior with a
Yeah.
healthy behavior.
and how you said kids, it's so much easier for them
Yes.
to learn it because it's just the primary way they're learning it.
Right.
Versus adults, you got to like untrain yourself,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's harder too because you're unlearning something but having to relearn an alternative at the same time.
Yeah, you're doing both.
Yeah.
And something else I was just thinking with kind of both what you just said and what EJ just said, it's like when you're unlearning, you're still operating in the context of, like you said, what has previously happened. And our brains have a hard time recognizing that there are different patterns for different situations. It just says, okay, in situation A, we do B. It's very like 0 and 1. But there's like so much gray area. So it just feels very unsafe. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is very
But yeah,
interesting.
that's why I asked. Because I
Okay.
know for me, yeah, that's like a newer like realization.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
assume motive. Yeah.